Welcome to the Running Channel podcast with me, Andy Badley, Rick Kelsey over there, Sarah Hartley in the middle, who's dressed like one of the members of Bewitched, a 90s pop band, which we'll come back to later for our YouTube viewers. And today we're going to be talking all about super shoes, which is one of the most talked about things since about 10 years ago when they broke onto the scene. They snuck onto athletes' feet at the Olympics in 2016. Eliud Kipchoge debuted the first Nike Alpha Fly, and they were built for elites, but now they're really easy to get hold of, and basically, should you get hold of them?
Yeah, and that phrase built for elites is what we really want to dig into rather than my outfit. We want to go into like, how does the super shoe technology work? And is it even worth having a pair of super shoes if you're not as fast as an elite runner?
Yeah, a lot of people at the moment, aren't they? They're training towards the goals they set at the start of the year. So that might be a spring marathon, big 10K coming up. And you might be eyeing those January sales thinking, is it worth buying myself a pair? Could they give me the edge? But will they actually work, or will they hold you back? Say you will, say you won't, say you'll do what I don't. Say it's true, say to me, oh, c'est la vie.
Is that Bewitched?
Yeah, it's because we couldn't get the rights.
Anyway, here's the podcast.
If I was older, maybe I would understand that joke. But
Hang
that
on,
just went
before we carry
so
on, we're going to have
head.
to pause slightly in the edit here because I just want to show Sarah a picture of Bewitched from.
The boiler suit is back in.
Hey, I'm not saying it's not cool. I'm just saying.
Look, you two couldn't even muster up an outfit. You're wearing Running Channel merch.
Yeah, on brand.
That's different.
It's just full denim, isn't it?
That's a Canadian.
Yeah.
Just full denim.
Canadian
suit.
tuxedo.
Canadian
Yeah,
tuxedo.
yeah.
This is an all-in-one. It's a onesie.
I take it back.
You know, it's
I
not
looked
all
at my
about...
wardrobe this morning. I went, oh, I can't be bothered. Onesie.
Listen,
If in doubt,
I think it's
onesie.
good.
Today's not all about taking the mick out of you. Actually,
We
what
also need to take the mick out of you too.
Well, potentially. But what most people over the weekend have been doing is taking the mick out of Andy and the shapes that he does when he runs. Actually, just
The shapes that sounds like I'm dancing when I
This
run it.
was
Actually,
absolutely incredible.
Strava art.
It was a complete fluke,
It
wasn't it?
was a complete fluke.
Yeah, if I had set out to draw this, I wouldn't have been as good as this, I don't think. So I did we all met up for a park run at the weekend. So we were at Southwark Park Run in London, taking on a pretty epic challenge actually. And Sarah was very proud of herself because she was manning the handicam.
I was manning the handicam. Yeah, this video will be out soon. Andy went head to head with Ben, the co-founder of the Runner app.
Yeah,
and
with a twist.
It was so good. So afterwards, Rick and Ben all went to the cafe to get a hot drink, and you diligently went and did your cool down.
Yeah.
And then,
warm down, damn it.
Sorry, no, cool down. And then what happened?
Well, I just ran various paths within Southwark Park.
Yeah.
The full perimeter and some other bits.
And it ended up looking like
A willy.
Massive penis.
Yeah. But I haven't seen some of the comments until right now.
I didn't realise I'd done it until
So, like, the thing that's so brilliant about it is that it's better than people who would have set out to go
to do
and draw
it. It's so accurate. Let's have a look at some of the comments on Strava. A very hard effort this morning, Andy. Exceptional stamina on display. Solid work, Andy. Keep it up.
Oh God!
And then this one was just made me laugh. From Kale, poor Mrs. Badley. I'd get that scene too, mate.
It was a bit wonky. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm not going to pass comment on that. But it was. Yeah, I didn't realise until I saw that I had loads more comments that I would have anticipated on a. And I normally
on like a 3K.
And I normally fairly provocatively call my whatever I do post workout a warm down.
Yeah.
Because that is what I'd call it, but people get cross. They're like, oh, do you just, when you take your dinner out of the oven, do you let it warm down before you eat it?
Yeah.
No, you don't. No. But I'm going to stick with it. And then, I saw there was loads of comments. I was like, oh no.
What's he done?
What have I done?
And then I had to click into the comment and then go back to the picture. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Does look like a penis.
Yeah.
Does look like a penis. So that was very entertaining. And it was a good day, I thought.
It was a good. I'm very excited to see the video.
It's actually amazing what a difference a week makes because today is the 19th of January.
Oh my gosh, it's day one of Rick's marathon training plan.
Yes, yeah.
Happy first day of training to all who celebrate the 14-week plan.
Yeah, I took a fair bit of stick last week actually for potentially not doing enough.
Yeah.
You not doing enough.
Yeah.
Doing the absolute bare minimum to just about survive.
Yeah, anyone's giving Rick stick for not really applying himself to an appropriate length training plan. You are correct.
You are
So
absolutely correct.
yeah.
But you know what? This is what we're here for. We do the things that we tell you not to do, so that
No,
you
we
can
don't.
see why.
We practice what we preach at
Yeah,
all
exactly.
times.
Yeah,
So what do you have to do this week? Run.
Run 3 times, of which I've done 2 in 4 days. So run 3 times.
Yeah, but
and
today,
2.
no, they don't count.
This is
two
a new
SNCs.
week.
It starts today.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
2 strength and conditioning sessions and
Yeah.
3 runs.
Yeah.
this
Okay.
week.
And what are
Yeah.
the runs?
It's a 4K easy.
Nice.
One day.
Yeah.
Then I've got 5K tempo and a 7K long run on Sunday. Yeah. Although I might mix my long runs, because I know most people do long runs on Sundays, but I'm actually thinking Sundays are not the best days for long runs.
Because you
Why?
go out Saturday night.
Well, no, because eventually you get to a point where you're gone for 4 hours
Yeah.
on a Sunday, and that's not conducive to parenting.
To a marriage.
To a marriage.
So,
yeah.
So why aren't you doing it on a Sunday then? You hate
look at the
parenting.
seriousness of
No,
that.
you hate parenting. So surely this is
No,
like
I
the
love
perfect
parenting.
combo.
I love parenting.
Oh, right.
I love parenting,
Yeah.
just not alone.
I love parenting. It's a 2-person job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love parenting when I get to sit and drink a cup of coffee while my wife
And
entertains
watch
the
my
children.
wife parent.
And I can just
Yeah.
bask in the familial bliss.
Are you
claim
two-
some responsibility for
Thank
it.
you, Andy. Thank you. Are you two getting towards your 5K pledges anywhere? Are they going well? Or-
I was
went-
pretty close at the weekend, to be fair.
Yeah.
As part of the filming at Sub-3
to
Parkrun.
what to hit it? Oh, to hitting it.
Yeah.
Look how surprised he is. What did you run at the weekend? Oh, well, actually, no, we can't reveal that.
No, we probably can't.
It was
But you-
17 something.
Was it though?
Ooh, was it? Oh. All right, so
Okay.
I've started.
I can tell you the official finish time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, can I? Actually, no. We're going to
No,
tease
you
you because
can't.
this was Parkrun with a twist. So
Yeah.
there was a little bit of a handicap element to it with myself and Ben.
Which was actually, I think, the best part of the video
Yeah.
because it was a classic UK parkrun start where
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh.
hundreds of people stood at the edge of a grassy field and then they say go and all of those people just sprint out into a triangle and then it goes into a very narrow path
Oh yeah,
about 200 metres later.
They'd completely. So a lot of parkruns actually, you only can fit 5 or 10 people across the front, and so
Yeah.
then it naturally is already funneled a bit.
This was like
whereas this one was
100
like a
people.
cross country start where it was spread
Yeah.
out over a good 100 meters probably.
So good.
And then it funneled in the space of 100 meters of travel
Yeah.
to 2 or 3 meters, which was absolute chaos.
And you were just stood there as they all ran off.
Yeah, I
being
did just
like,
watch them
"See you
disappear
in a
off into
minute,
the
guys."
distance. Yeah. And then because it was very narrow, it was hard to pick my way through people. And obviously everyone else is doing their own stuff at Parkrun. So you'll be able to see I had a camera on my chest the whole way. I was very polite and waited a few times, had to wait a few times. I couldn't obviously barge my way past.
Quite a good little fartlek, that.
I mean, it was, yeah,
Speed
the
play.
surge that I was doing was, surging that I was doing was a bit crazy.
So good.
Yeah, but I had a lot of fun. And then I did a 90-minute long run on Sunday in the fog
Oh, nice.
of central Bedfordshire.
Well, your 5K training is going well. My marathon training is ramping up. I'm doing the alternative method to Rick's training,
Are you actually training?
and I'm actually training.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I did 23K yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, and I went and I decided.
For which marathon?
Rotterdam.
I didn't know
Marathon.
this.
Yeah, 12th of April.
This
Very
is genuinely the
excited.
first time I'm hearing this.
Do you know, I'm really excited how I navigate Rotterdam training because I'm going skiing in March. And so far, I've just ignored my training plan and I've just not thought about it. And then I had a look. And
You asked me if you could go on holiday, didn't you, in March? And you sent me a little note that says, I promise not to hurt myself.
I was a freak a leg. So we're doing, it's going to be like full packed days. So I would like a group consensus on, does a day of skiing cancel out an easy run? Yes or no?
I mean,
Because what I'm going to
Cancel out.
does it
Yeah,
mean...
because basically what I'm doing, I'm going Saturday to Saturday. So my thinking is I'm going to do, and the week before I go is a deload week. So I'm thinking I
Well, that was a
deload,
mistake.
squeeze all my runs in, then the week of skiing, ski, get back on the Saturday, Sunday, 36K long run.
That is stupid.
That's stupid. Okay,
Yeah.
so I shouldn't do that.
No.
Okay.
Because you'll have been using
Just
loads of
checking.
muscles that you don't regularly use for that whole week of skiing.
But then surely I'll be acclimatized by day 6.
Or you'll be at like maximum DOMs, maybe.
True. Well, Saturday's just a travel day. So it is like ski, rest, 36K.
Yeah, I think we need to think about how you should adjust your training appropriately for the skiing. Because
Skiing is hard though.
that's what I mean. It's going to take a lot out of you. So.
Yeah.
And we're doing ski touring one day, which I don't really understand what that is, but apparently it's harder.
Is that like sort of telemark skiing or whatever it's called, where you're skiing like the cross-country skiers?
Yeah, a bit. It's like a lot of off-piste.
Oh, but is it all downhill, or are you like...
You like hike up and then you like ski
right, that's a lot of
off-piste
effort,
bit.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Then you
No,
hike
it's
up
different.
again.
I was thinking because like cross-country
It's
skiing
not
is more like
the-
the flat stuff that like they do in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not like when you're just like,
Yeah.
no.
Did you know that, this might not be true anymore, certainly when I was running it was true, that the cross-country skiers, I think they call it biathlon, don't they, because there's usually some shooting involved, they have the highest VO2 max of any sport.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, it's an incredibly challenging, because imagine it's effectively like running, but you're also driving with your arms.
How high are we talking? What number? What's an average?
I don't know what the average is, but we're talking 80s or... like,
Truth.
yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Got a way to go.
What's yours?
It's not important.
Well,
Right, well, I'm just going to have a really high VO2 max then.
yeah, well, something that might compensate for having a slightly lower VO2 max isn't a massive picture of a penis.
No.
It is potentially super shoes, because they could help give you a little bit of a performance gain, depending
Or
potentially on how
do
fast you're running.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like when super shoes first came out to the market, it was so exciting. When the first
And it
Nike,
still is. They keep trying to innovate.
yeah, they get better and better and better. But I feel like now they're much more kind of widely accepted and known about in running. When the Nike was the first people to bring it out, and it was the 4%, and it was supposed to make 4% faster.
Yeah.
But I now think people are drilling down into, okay, but is it making everyone 4% faster? And that's what we want to go into, because the super shoes, there's now every single brand makes a super shoe. Every single brand makes multiple different types of super shoe.
And some make, what you might describe as like sub super shoes, or like
Super
super
trainers.
trainers. Or,
Yeah. I think we've reached a problem situation for runners with super shoes, where you turn up on a Saturday morning to a park run or to a standard 5K or 10K race at a weekend. And if you are a regular runner, almost everyone is wearing them. And I think there are a lot of people who are wearing super shoes who should not be wearing super shoes. And I think the science, what we're going to talk about today, backs that up.
I'm going to put in a small
Caveat?
disclaimer. Oh yeah, I tried to use any other word
Yeah,
than caveat.
yeah,
'cause you
yeah.
said caveat is apparently my bingo word that I say all of the time. Yeah, bingo.
Who had 11 minutes?
Yeah. A caveat would be everyone responds completely individually. So we can talk about how it's, when we're going to talk about specific running paces, because there has been a pretty comprehensive study done at a couple of different running paces. And it's obviously generalized. So there will still be people who run at particular paces that we might say, on average, there's no significant benefit to using super shoes, who will get a benefit.
Yeah.
And likewise, there'll be some who run at faster paces who might not get a benefit, even though on average the population would get a benefit. So
Yeah.
it is still individual, and you can do a lot of testing in like your local specialty running store, where you can look at your gait and things like that. And you just got to go a little bit on feel. But if you are looking at spending loads of money, then maybe listen to what we're going to say for the next 10 or 20 minutes and see if any of it is coherent.
That's just it. And I've been looking at what those numbers are when you merge a lot of these studies and you see how it all comes out. And for the elites, that 4% mark of how much it can improve you is true. There's been many elements of research done to it. But when you start to get to around 4 minutes 15, if you're running slower than that number, there is big debate about how much these super shoes could actually hinder you because of the lack of stability that they give you.
Yeah,
Well,
so there was a study done where at 8-minute miling or 5 minutes per kilometre, runners experience an average running economy improvement of 1.4%. But elite runners saw 2.7 to 4.2%.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what we're saying of like it's a great thing that there are now so many super shoes on the market, because you do need to be aware of the fact that I think initially when they first came out, it was like, great, slap these on your feet,
Exactly.
head out and you'll
Exactly.
be faster no matter what. Whereas now you do need to, well, it's more just a watch out. If you are going to part with hundreds of pounds, you want to find that it's not one size fits all. Literally, there'll be shoes that are better placed for you compared to others.
Yeah, Rick's used the kind of 4:15 per kilometre, 4:16 per kilometre, which is your 3-hour marathon pace, as a kind of like benchmark. The study that we read about fairly recently, that we kind of decided to do this podcast about, talks about two very specific paces. One is 8-minute miling, which is 5 minutes per kilometre, and one is, I want to say 9 940 per mile, which is 10 kilometers an hour. So that must be 6-minute kilometers.
Yeah.
And that's where the tipping point happens, somewhere between those.
It's a 4 hour 15 marathon, roughly.
Which one?
Yeah, if you're running 10 kilometers per hour, if you're running at a pace of 10 kilometers an hour.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So
I love how shocked Andy is when Rick says maths that's correct.
yeah, I have to do it in my head.
Sorry, do it again. And again, show you working.
Yeah, show you
Just
working.
write it down for me.
Yeah.
Actually, you are correct on that
Because
one.
I
done,
run with
Rick.
a lot of people who do that pace,
Yeah.
and who I've been had to have these conversations with recently.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you do? Do you go for it or not?
Yeah.
And that's when I've started looking at the semi super shoe.
Yeah, before we do that, just to finish the actual findings of the
Yeah.
study, it's the tipping point between those two paces. So 10 kilometers an hour and 12 kilometers an hour. So between 940 miling and 8-minute miling it goes from, like Sarah said, at 8-minute miling, they found a 1.4% improvement in running economy, which is much less than running at faster paces, and it's less than a lot of the elite testing shows, but it's still statistically significant. So from anyone that remembers all of the stats that they hated at school, if it's statistically significant, then it's a meaningful change that you can be attributed to this particular thing, i.e. to the shoes. Whereas at the slower pace, 940 per mile, 10 minutes to 10 kilometers an hour, then there was a 0.9% economy improvement, but it wasn't shown to be statistically significant. So that means that it could have been due to, it's within the bounds of, I guess, the margin for error of the study itself. So you don't know whether that's actually a real economy improvement. So that, again, is a population average, saying that if you're running around about what Rick said, 4:15 for a marathon, then that's the point at which, or somewhere between those two paces, that's where it stops being statistically significant that the shoes will definitely, on average, give you a benefit.
Should we just quickly touch on how super shoes work as well? And then we can get into the difference between
bits, isn't it,
super
basically?
shoe, super trainer. Yeah, so you've got foam, plates, and rocker, basically.
Rocker's basically the curve of the shoe. On the
Yeah.
base.
So
Well, and it could be a combination of the other two as well. So like the way that the plate and foam are shaped will determine how that feeling of rocking, the rocker as it were, how that feels. And it can, some shoes it feels like it's right towards the back of your foot, and sometimes it feels like you really have to be running on your toes to get the benefit of the rocker shape of the shoe.
Yeah.
yeah, some are more like kind of traditional racing flats, I would say, whereas there are others where literally you put them on and it feels like you're up on your tippy toes. So the foam is acting as your like energy return. You compress the foam and then that springs back in combination with the plate as well.
That keeps it stiff enough, otherwise it would just deform so much that it wouldn't give you that energy return. So it's like the combination of those two things.
Yeah, because I think most people talk about like carbon plated shoes. But actually like the foam is really the unsung hero of the shoe as well.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because that's where the speed comes in as well, isn't it? Because the faster you're going, the more you're compressing the foam and getting that speed back from it.
Yeah,
and the traditional EVA foam that I'm probably wearing in my trainers right now give about a 60 to 65% return of energy, but super shoes typically use something called PEBA. I have no idea what that stands for. PEBA and ATPU foams, but they give a 80 to 85%. So already that's significant.
They're also lighter as well. So like the cool thing with super shoes is that all brands are trying to do is like shave off weight, trying to make it as light as possible with like super responsive foam and a stiff plate and whatever kind of rocker mechanism, even to the point where sometimes if you pull the insole out, you'll see that they've drilled like little holes into the midsole just to save a little bit of weight.
Yeah, and it's the combination of compressing the foam and flexing the stiff carbon plate that then gives you that energy return. And so some of the studies that we've been reading about ahead of this episode were showing that actually the elites at the paces that they're running are actually putting more ground reaction forces into the shoes. So they're generating more force into the ground, and therefore they're compressing the foam and flexing the plate more, and therefore getting more back. That's ultimately what
that makes sense.
What changes.
Can we just touch on that a little bit though, because I think that hits on a good point of like what it's not necessarily just the pace that you're running that might be why you're not getting a benefit from the shoe. So quite often these shoes are designed for like the quote unquote like perfect runner in terms of running form as well. So if an elite runner is like a really bad heel striker, then the shoe isn't going to work as optimally for them. So and that could be, so if if you've purchased a pair of super shoes and you're just like, I don't really get it, it's not really making a difference, it might be that you could get a difference out of them, but it might be that you need to look at a few other things with your running economy first in order for them to make a difference. Or especially stability is a huge one. If you're someone who like
because it's so soft, a lot of them.
And also like the upper, if you compare the upper of like your regular everyday trainer to the upper material of a super shoe, they're trying to save weight, so it like you can get a really nice secure fit, but it will be so much more flimsy in terms of like what's wrapping around the side of your foot. So the support and the stability isn't there quite as much. So what you might want to look for is a super trainer where you've still got foam, you still got a plate. It might not necessarily be a carbon plate, it might be like a plastic plate. But
some of the cheaper, what I'd call sub super shoes, some might call them a super trainer, or that's slightly different, I think, but they can be almost like an entry level into it, and actually they can be a lot more forgiving, more stable, probably will last a bit longer as well, and you can tie them tighter and more securely because the upper is a bit thicker.
Because if your foot's like rocking all over the place when you're running, or like you're not necessarily hitting the ground on your midfoot, then you're not going to get the same return anyway. So you might as well wear a shoe where you feel so stable and secure in it that you're able to hit at the best point for the plate to like give something back.
Yeah, and the brands are all trying different shapes of everything. So the curvature of the carbon plate will be different, what coverage it has within the actual shoe. Some are full length, some aren't, some, a cutaway in various elements. That's totally different. So the different shoes can feel really different to different individuals based on the way that you run. A really good example recently, my marathon shoes that I ran in, I went up a whole size in those shoes because I really liked them, but they just didn't feel quite right in what I felt was my actual size. They felt they fitted okay lengthwise, like my toes weren't bashing into the end of the upper.
Yeah.
But it just didn't feel like the point at which they tipped, the rocker as I was running, didn't feel right at my marathon pace. And then going up a whole size basically pushed that point. Imagine like the pivot on a seesaw or whatever. It pushed that point slightly further back.
Like towards your heel.
Yeah. Which just meant that it felt like it was in the right place for me when I was running at marathon pace. Yeah. And then totally different brands, totally different types of shoe feel different for me at different paces. So you might find that you set off in a running shoe, in a super shoe that you're really excited about, but at your paces that you're going to run in most of the time, it just feels way too stiff because you can't generate the speed and pace to actually use it properly. So it is worth trying them before you try and run a certain distance.
That's why I think it's so much easier to find a super shoe for like a 5K or 10K than it is for faster, a marathon. Yeah, because in a marathon as well, like you are pushing yourself to extremes in so many different ways. And we always talk about how like if you watch people at the end of a race, doesn't matter what distance it is, you'll see that the form has like collapsed a little bit by the end. People are sinking down, they're like hunched over. Your like ankle stability probably isn't as strong as when you started. So in a marathon, you really want to make sure that you have a shoe that supports you. And I would actually say I've done more marathons in like what brands might call like a tempo shoe than in an all-out super shoe for that reason, because I was running at paces where I wanted a bit more foam, like a bit of a sturdier shoe, more grip as well. Like if you want to invest in a shoe and you're thinking like, I want this shoe to last, quite often if you go for a super trainer, it's got so much more grip on it. So if you're using it for like sessions and races,
because they shave weight in the super shoe, so they just don't have the protection of the sole of the foam on the bottom.
What about the injury risk shift of wearing them? Because a lot of the science will suggest that super shoes will protect your calves, but often that can be at the expense of your knees and other joints. How does that work?
They're studying this all of the time, because I think traditionally over the last 30, 40 years, they had a pretty good handle on what caused different injuries. And then I know at the elite end, loads of people are doing more mileage now than they were able to before and doing more intensity. So double threshold days and stuff have only really become the norm, probably because the science supports them, but also I couldn't have done them. I wouldn't have been able to recover in time between the two workouts because the foam in my shoes just didn't let me. And I felt pretty beaten up from the impact. So now I think that, I'm guessing, but that the injury impact, as the injuries kind of prevalence has moved away from pure kind of repetitive impact from just how much of a beating your body takes from that in the old foams, to now the injuries are different because you're fundamentally changing the mechanics at your ankle, and your ankle inflects the way your ankle moves, because the stiffness of your ankles changed completely by using foam with a stiff carbon plate. then that impacts your knee and your hip. So I think they're studying sort of almost like this new evolution of the way people get injured.
Shifting up your leg, basically.
Well, I don't know. I genuinely don't know where people are getting injured more and whether it's more like tendons or muscles or joints based on it, but it is changing it. And that's why we'd always say, or I've always, the science will change all of the time, but I mix up my runs. So I definitely wouldn't do all of my runs in super shoes, not least because you can't use them at every pace anyway.
Yeah, even all in the same shoe now. No. But I think that's a great like wrap up point to this, because you've hit off every single thing there of, we were answering the question of, should you buy or wear super shoes if you're not a sub 3 hour marathoner? Answer, yes. But no matter what pace you are, I think you need to consider the following things. One, go and test out your shoes before you buy them so that someone else can have an objective view of you running in those shoes at those different paces. If you can get on a treadmill and try them out.
Or even if you've ever worked with a remote like a physio or somebody, you can film yourself on your phone now. Just get someone to film you running in, like, even if you bought them and you're going out for a run, get people to film you at the beginning of a run and at the end of a run. Yeah. Because then you're going to look different.
Consider what the shoe feels like. Think about the foam, the rocker, like Andy talked about with his super shoes, and don't assume that it's one size fits all, because these shoes are being developed for probably, like, most of the time runners at the faster end of the scale.
Well, exactly.
So if you're not running at speeds that are faster than sub 3 hour marathon pace, then you've now got a lot of choice of what shoe to take, but it's not necessarily going to be every single shoe that feels right.
Yeah, and if you're running still fast, but relatively fast and maybe at a more medium pace, so kind of that 4 hour marathon, 3:30, 4:30 marathon, avoid the softest, most aggressive carbon plated shoes to avoid paying that stability tax.
Yeah, because I think that what you might find, and this is the bit that's probably very difficult to prove, is that you might find that they feel great and really give you a benefit and a performance boost in the first, say, 2 hours of your marathon. Yeah. And then as you start to fatigue and you don't have the muscular and biomechanical strength and efficiency to stay with perfect running form, that then the penalty that you pay that tax in that second half of the marathon might massively outweigh what you've gained. And so broadly, I'd be saying...
Yeah, what you've gained is probably a 10k PB in the first 10k, because you're like,
because you feel great.
So Andy, what would they do then? So what would the semi-super shoe not have that the super shoes do have?
The nylon plates, usually they're not using a carbon plate if they've got a plate in them at all. And so that is more flexible. And generally the shoes are wider. They have a slightly firmer foam. Wider in terms of like the amount of contact that it makes with the ground. Have a slightly firmer foam so they don't feel quite so sort of like running on pillows where your ankle, you're having to really actively control your ankle. Mm-hmm. So the later you get into a marathon, the less you can possibly be thinking about like making perfect running form, foot contact with the ground. And so you need something that's just going to help you out. And it might be that the best thing for someone isn't a super shoe at all. It's just a shoe that's really going to protect you in the second half or last 10k of the marathon when you're just so fatigued. You just want something that really looks after you. So I wouldn't like, I think that the faster and closer to that elite or sub-elite level you go, it's unquestionable that you need a super shoe to be competitive if you're trying to like run a personal best or qualify for something or whatever it might be. But when you're talking about the times that we're talking about here, which are like still pretty fast marathon times.
That's what I mean. They're still fast times.
But what you might, I think the numbers are saying here that once you're at that 9:40 per mile pace, it's not statistically significant for the general population, in which case I'd be saying get a pair of shoes that you know are going to take you the distance, going to look after you, and that you like running in. And you don't necessarily need to take the risk to make what might be for you a very, very marginal gain.
In a million years, I'm not going to be wearing an all-out super shoe. I am going to try and now go for one of these kind of semi.
I think this will be fascinating for us to talk about on the podcast, because we might be able to get you in to get tested, have a look at your gait, get you to try a few. But I would be saying again, because you've never run in them, it'd be crazy for us to go like from 0 to 100. You might just go in a slightly lighter everyday training.
I've done a few 5Ks in them.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different ballgame, isn't it? Fascinating. I feel like I've got an answer. I know what I'm going to do now. I don't know what I'm going to wear, but I know what I'm going to do.
Well, they need to do more studies as well. I think there's going to be more and more studies that look at, 1 million plus people balloted for London Marathon this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think as well,
how
like
many of those need to wear what shoes?
it's going to be like a circular cycle as well. At the moment, it's been like, right, we're going to do loads of research to create a shoe that will help people break world records. Oh, okay, now we've made a shoe that the mass market are buying. Okay, let's do some research in that. Okay, now can we develop a shoe? We might see shoes coming out which literally are, if you run a 4-hour marathon, this is the shoe for you.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really exciting.
There's just been some data actually that's been run from sports shoes about the amount of people who are doing, runners in general, who are doing strength and conditioning work. And in general, it's about 25%. And this all plays into the super shoe argument.
Yeah.
So more people, the science suggesting that the problems are developing higher up the leg compared to on the shins. So how your S&C is affected by the type of shoe you're doing also comes into play. I mean, not enough of us are doing strength and conditioning
What do you think
anyway,
would
but actually
happen
be
if, like-
doing more further up your leg rather than just on your ankles and
I'd make a
calves.
strong argument that when you are talking about marginal gains, that 1% kind of, and you're not sure if it's statistically significant, then if you're able to fit in an extra strength and conditioning session or put one in the first place,
That is
or
statistically significant.
or an extra run or whatever it might be within the sensible realms of like increasing your training load, that's going to be the thing that makes you run better,
That's just
not
not
the shoe.
as fun as buying a pair of shoes, though, is it?
Well, no, definitely not. I love buying shoes.
So good. Right, should we talk about some news?
Yeah, let's head to Japan.
Again,
Ekiden.
yeah, the Hakone Ekiden.
Yeah.
Hakona.
Tell
I
us
actually
about
don't
it.
know how to pronounce it. Well, you're relying on me. It took place, I want to say, a couple of weeks ago. It's a January event, and they take Ekidens in general as a race format take place in Japan. They're huge. 50 plus million people in one country are watching this on TV.
So cool.
And it's a university event, the Hakone one. So I think it's a team of 20 teams competing on a route that takes you from Tokyo to Hakone and back again. 200 plus kilometers, about 212 kilometers, I think. And there's 10 legs. So there's 10 runners in each team. So they're each running a half marathon.
Yeah, it's a long distance relay race, except there's no baton. You're wearing a sash, your own colours sash.
Tazuki?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And it's a
Tazuki.
sash that you wear diagonally across your body. Think like very, old school, like almost like a pageant. And you have to, as you're running, take that off and pass it over. People line the streets. There are professional Ekiden teams sponsored by massive corporations in Japan. And then there's a corporate challenge where people take them on and people get behind. So there's a huge amount of kudos and brand prestige in being associated with like the best, a bit like Formula One globally in terms of, being Honda or Red Bull or whatever and associated with the Formula One team. It's the same in Japan being associated with an Ekiden team. And I think I read a stat which I actually can't believe is true, but something like the average half marathon time of the teams taking part in it is something like 61 minutes, 101 for the men.
It's really quick.
Which is like you're global elite.
Well, there is like the depth of the Japanese elite running scene is huge. You might not see that often a Japanese athlete make the podium, but if you look at like marathon start lists, how many of them will be in like the top 50?
Yeah, I reckon if you
incredible.
So are you familiar? Have you with your new running club that you hardly ever mention in North Hertfordshire?
Are you in a running club?
I haven't mentioned it this
That was your
episode.
bingo. That was your bingo.
However,
card.
I did do my run at the weekend with someone from
Nice.
my running
That's the
club.
magic of it. Have you ever done a mob match? Do you know what a mob match is?
Oh, yeah.
So a mob match in the UK anyway would be you show up to a cross country match or whatever, and it's not usually like against it might be 3 or 4 local clubs or whatever come to a mob match to take on each other.
Yeah.
And you just in a normal cross country race, it's usually your first 6 or 8 or 10 from your team that score.
4 this
4.
year.
Okay,
4
there we
women.
go. But in the mob match, everyone scores.
Yeah.
And so you add up everyone's points. And so the more people you have, the better the chance you have of winning, even if you don't have the fastest runners. I was just thinking, imagine a global marathon mob match. Then I think Japan would absolutely smash it if it was half marathon or marathon.
I wonder how the UK would do.
Because the level of
Not
consistent
great compared to
fitness. No, completely. Questions. Hello, Running Channel friends. Here in NC. Now, I was wondering what NC is. I'm guessing NC is North Carolina.
Let's go with it.
I have done
So is this
well.
Mika?
This is Mika, yeah. I've done well with staying consistent with my running schedule that I started in March 25. Then now I'm starting to get a little bored of familiar areas that I run and looking to mix things up a little bit more. I'd never heard of parkrun until I started tuning in, and then I went to my first one this last Saturday. I added my barcode to my watch and everything. I did that. That is great, actually. It's very useful. I am hearing that it's important for runners to do strength training as well. I like to begin this alongside my running and grow them together. Does it make a significant difference if a run day is also a strength day? I think it'd be a good way to habit stack. That way I wouldn't have to plan anything on my rest days, but relax and maybe stretch. Are there drawbacks in doing so? Thanks for all you do, Mika.
Ooh, great question, because this is also what I'm planning to do.
This is exactly what I do. I know some elites who would do it on their hard workout days. I've never enjoyed doing that. And I'm not going to recommend that, but even though there is definitely like a philosophy of thought that thinks that's the way to do it.
Because then your rest from the hard workout is also your rest from the strength.
I think so. I don't actually, but I
that would make sense. But the DOMs.
Yeah, for me, I do this fairly regularly. So because it's just fitting it in, like you say, and almost being able to then treat a true rest day as a complete rest day. But I would do it on my easy run. So if I've got an easy half an hour run, 40-minute run, 45-minute run, whatever it might be, then I'll try to do that and finish it at the gym. So I'll start and finish it at the gym, or start it and end up at the gym. Mm-hmm. And then I've done a very thorough warm-up, clearly, because then I can go straight in more or less to the exercises that I want to do in the gym, and then I'm done. And so that is if I can find what would take me probably an hour to an hour and 15 minutes there, in combination, those two things, then that's what I would do as my preference. So, and I think that that's absolutely okay. Habit stacking is a good idea. You've got your kit with you. If you're going to do it from work or whatever, you only have to plan one thing.
Yeah.
But I would make sure you know what you're doing in the gym and keep that overall time that you spend there as short as possible, because you could easily drag that out. 45-minute run and then an hour in the gym. You're at nearly 2 hours there. That's a lot. So
yeah,
I would build. I think it's really good idea, but I would also build two different types of strength and conditioning sessions. So one that's a gym-based strength and conditioning session, and another one, which I did when I was recovering from injury, one that I could always do at home.
Yeah.
So with plyometrics, so like box jumping, squats, stuff you can all do at home, calf raises, stuff that you don't need to go to the gym stuff to do.
Yeah, combination of core and
band work. Yeah. All that type of stuff, and just have 6 really good ones that you can do 3 sets of all at home, using stuff like your sofa, using the stuff like a chair, and just use your own body weight to do it. Very helpful.
We should put a bingo count in, but I'm going to say one caveat. You mentioned plyometrics, like box jumps and stuff. Build up to those. They require a little bit of extra strength. You can't go straight in at various like bounds and leaps and jumps and stuff. They're more explosive and a bit more risky. So,
but you can do some basic plyometrics, like just hopping on one leg.
Yes.
Which when I first did that for the first time, I remember putting all your weight on one leg after you've had an operation is probably one of the most terrifying things that you'll ever do.
Have you had an operation?
Have I told you about this?
No. You've done pretty well recently, to be fair.
Yeah. I don't want to mention the word osteotomy.
No,
right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, we had one little bit to round up on here, which is we love all of the interaction that we have in the Running Channel Club. There's a whole bonus episode every single week for members of the Running Channel Club. And it is incredibly cheap to join and supports the channel. So if you do want to join, then head to theclub.therunningchannel.com. But we asked if you could speak to any runner from any period of time to ask for advice for your next 5K PB attempt, because we're right in the middle of the Pledge a PB campaign for the Running Channel. So sign up for that if you haven't. Who would it be? And I want your answers as well, you guys. Who would it be? So Fliss said Dame Kelly Holmes. Great choice. Mm-hmm. Double Olympic gold medalist from 2004. Although famously, I suppose, not the world's fastest over 5K. But then, I mean, I ran the same distances as her and I'm trying to hammer on giving advice. So I think that's fair. I think that's fair enough. Julie Twist said Paula Radcliffe or Ailish McColgan.
Yeah, nice.
You think you get a really different take from both of those? They've both stepped up all the way through the distances, cross country, 5K, 10K, half marathon.
Yeah.
Ailish McColgan's a really good shout, because whenever I've interviewed her after a race, she literally has time for absolutely everyone.
Yeah, she's fab. We've had her on the podcast too.
Yeah, it's just time.
Yeah,
she'll speak
so
to every single journalist, which is quite unique.
And you.
No, she didn't. She said, except you, mate.
Yeah, fair enough.
You look
But
dodgy.
I'm happy to meet you afterwards.
Yeah.
And, a good one from Ian, if we go back a bit here. Ian says, showing my age now, I'd love a round table with Cram, Coe and Ovette as much for a chat about their rivalry. Yeah, because you had to pick one, really. And I've met all three of these and had really interesting chats to Cram and Coe in particular. I actually met Ovette at an event when I was like, running really well, and he was my hero. And when I met him, he was like, who are you? And I was like, oh.
Never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, of course, I'm going to say Gabby Thomas.
Are you?
For the 5K. She runs 200 metres.
So, sure she's ran it.
She'll be able to give some tips.
I'd also probably just, as a bit of a random one, I'd probably throw Cole Hocker in there. Just because the guy...
That's not random. He's the 5K world champion. You started with
Just
Gabby
as
Thomas.
a bit of a random one.
Well, no one else has mentioned him.
Well, no, but you started with like a 200 metre professional athlete.
Yeah, because I'd like to speak with her.
Yeah, about 5K?
I'd just like to speak with her.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to. I just want to talk. I'd like to talk to him about the Olympics when nobody even mentioned his name.
Yeah.
That he was going to win the 5K at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then he just came from nowhere. And everyone was like, "Who's this American guy?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say Hannah Nuttall.
Oh, in the
She's
UK?
she's done. We've watched her do 5,000 meters at the World Champs,
Yeah.
and I just thought I remember watching her in that race because I am always just like, come on, Team GB.
Yeah.
But
Patriot.
she ran. I think she ran a PB maybe
Yeah,
when we
can't
saw
ask
her.
for more than that.
But I just remembered I would want to talk to someone who isn't. As much as Cole Hocker's great, I don't want to talk to the person that wins. I want to talk to the person that gives absolutely everything and comes like fourth or fifth. Because I think that they must have a tidbit of,
George Mills.
how do you get knocked down and get back up again?
Yeah.
I think that those types of people would be
That
interesting.
little Chumbawamba Tub Thumping reference. You know what I'm
No.
talking about?
No.
Oh, it's a song, isn't it, Rick? Do you even know what I'm talking
No,
about? Get knocked down, but I get up again?
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I
there
think
we go.
so. Yeah.
Sorry.
Who would yours be, Andy?
Well, I'd go to Hisham El Garouj. He was my hero growing up. Moroccan world record holder still in the mile and 1500 metres. And he also did the double in the same year as Kelly Holmes, but a different double. He did the 1500 5K double.
What year is that record from? The 1500 meters.
One of them, I'm sure, is like 99. It's certainly late 90s, both of the records. So they've been around for a long time.
I know we had a show where we talked about records, but isn't that actually amazing that the 1500 meter record stretches back that far?
Just goes to show you can have loads of advancements, but what it still comes down to is the power of an individual athlete.
Yeah. And that would be, I'd like to take my kind of 15, 16-year-old self back and be able to talk to him, because I had I remember a picture of him clipped out from the Times newspaper or something, like on my notice board in my room. Because I was like, yeah, I want to be that guy.
Aw, what a lovely note to finish on.
There aren't many records that go back that far, though, are there? That's amazing that still stands.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's not from,
sorry.
like,
Yeah,
the 80s,
banging on.
aren't
Yeah.
Maybe next week we'll do a little,
Yeah, we'll do more. Right, I'm off to get my vocal nodes checked.
Oh gosh, more on that next week.
Yeah.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.